Thanks for staying with us here on The Real Story. Joining me now is State Representative Corey Paris, a member of the legislature's Higher Education and Employment Advancement Committee. You're here to talk with us about student loans.
Yes, I wish I was here under better circumstances, of course.
I know, not always the most fun
That's correct.
topic to have to chat about. Obviously, we know this pause on student loan debt repayment was just lifted this past week. You know, a lot of people got really comfortable during the pause, not having to worry about student loans, but now payments have restarted. So tell me what that looks like for your constituents and people across Connecticut who are dealing with student loan debt.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, Emma, and I appreciate you allowing me to join you today to talk about this issue. You know, I think a lot of constituents, not just in my district, but across the state, are very concerned about how much this is going to affect their pockets and their bottom line. I spoke to someone who said that it's going to cost an extra $1,000 a month out of he and his wife's pocket of disposable income due to child care and student loan repayments. And some folks who I've spoken to have said that their student loan payments are as high as $1,300 a month, even after they've gone through the save and repay programs that are being offered by the federal government. So across the 500,000 borrowers that we have in the state, it's a real concern of ours as we're starting to see the repayments start again.
Right.
Yeah.
And big news this week, though, just as these payments restarted, President Biden, along with Connecticut's own Education Secretary Cardona, announced another $9 billion in forgiveness.
Right.
There's a lot of different roundabout ways people can save or get some forgiveness on these loans, but how can residents here actually get some help?
You know, it's interesting. I think you can look at, I encourage people to look at some of the resources that are being put on the internet and on some of the governmental websites with the Department of Education. I think that there's some resources on our own websites here with the Office of Higher Education, but also there are a ton of student loan advocates across the state which are doing this work as well. And I think that they could probably point people in the right direction. It's quite confusing because I think what the federal government is doing is that the president's trying to take a large pot of money and spread it into programs that already currently exist and see if people can gain forgiveness through those programs that already currently exist.
Gotcha.
To kind of go around Congress and the Supreme Court. Will it work? I think we have to wait and see, certainly, but there are a lot of people out there who have these, who's dealing with this debt that need to figure out whether or not they qualify for anything.
And as you just mentioned, you know, on the federal level, there's been a lot of pushback and legal troubles when it comes to debt forgiveness, but Connecticut has passed its own legislation here to forgive student loans for many. Tell me a little bit about that Connecticut-specific legislation.
Well, Emma, I'm rather biased on that bill, but I will say that it's comprehensive in terms of being fair and equitable. It focuses on attraction of young people to our state, retention of young people in our state that are already going to our schools, both public and private, and any school that you can earn a trade certificate. And in addition to that, the other thing that it does is it increases and encourages economic participation, which is key. And so that program, you know, you have to live in Connecticut for at least 5 years, go to school here, do some community service, and we will reimburse you up to $5,000 on your loan if you pay that off in a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of incentives for the state as well then to offer that money to residents. So you're on both of the legislature's education committees, definitely a topic that you care a lot about. There's been a lot of discussion with college being so expensive. You know, as a state encouraging more career paths that don't necessarily mean going to a full 4-year university or even going to higher education at all. Do you see those as possible solutions to deal with the increasing cost of higher education that we're seeing?
I think there's certainly a solution for everything. I mean, we're certainly saying that you can make 6 figures in this day and age and not have to retain a college degree. And so I think we need to change our narrative to young people in terms of their acquisition of higher education degrees and certificates. We do need more folks in the trades to help our economy stay strong. But I think in addition to that, what's equally as important, those trades are still predatory. They're prime examples of predatory lending and loans. So even those folks who are getting trade certificates are still ending up with the same amount of student loan debt as those who are going to 4-year institutions.
Sure. And I want to talk a little bit more about the cost of college because whether or not Biden and Connecticut can pass more forgiveness, you know, the price tag on higher education is still rising. So is there an opportunity for Connecticut to be more competitive here? when it comes to our many public colleges within the state and also community college programs?
I think it's certainly an opportunity for us to be more competitive. I mean, we have some of the top schools in the entire country sitting right here within our state. I think what's important is that we make that investment in those schools, in the teachers and the students, and also on the campuses in terms of some of their capital improvements and updates. And I think when we do that, we'll see that our workforce will be stronger, we'll retain more people in our state, and we'll be able to offer more competitive programs that we're seeing across the country that are going to put people on the cutting edge of this economy.
You mentioned that investment. That was a big topic of discussion during the past legislative session.
That was in the Appropriations Committee, which is the third committee I sit on. So
you really had to deal with this on all your committees.
That's right.
We had a lot of these higher education groups saying that they didn't have enough funding.
Right.
A lot of that being due to some of that temporary COVID-19 federal money running out, but a lot of universities and colleges also saying that they didn't have enough money to begin with before the COVID funding. So we saw some protests. We saw a lot of calls from the community college programs in the state as well. A lot of them are even saying if they don't get enough funding, they'll need to raise tuition. Do you think there's anything the legislature could or should be doing to help colleges keep costs to students down?
I think there's always more that the legislature can do on all fronts with education, certainly with early childhood education, K through 12, and obviously with the university system. I think that we have to understand how this system is, how sustainable it is, and realize the viability of where they are right now in terms of its funding. We have to understand the new trends and offer more online programs, because I think that will also make a difference in terms of retaining students and piquing the interest of young people here in our state. There's no one way to basically skin this cat, but I believe that we need to be open to every way to understand how to ensure that our system is stronger more today than it was yesterday.
And do you think any part of that solution is increasing the amount of funding? Obviously, we just had the 2-year budget, but I know increasing funding for all levels of education, not just higher education, was something a lot of lawmakers said maybe we can go back and do that this upcoming session next year. Do you think that's still part of this conversation?
I truly believe that it remains to be seen. We're not back in the legislative session yet. I think we have to see what's happening in terms of each individual campus, and learn and hear from folks on the ground as to what really is going to help them do their jobs more effectively. I can't say that necessarily will be an increase in tuition. I would hope that we have an increase and focus on an increase in student population as opposed to tuition, but that remains to be seen.
And so for those who are overwhelmed, if they don't know what they qualify for or even where to start, where to find this information on loan forgiveness, what do they need to know? What's your message to them? Who should they reach out to about this?
Best people to reach out to are your federal and state legislators. I think that they can provide resources that would be super helpful. The Department of Education is a great resource if you go online to their website. But above all else, if you have any questions whatsoever, just email us, ask us, and we're more than happy to find those connecting resource liaisons as we best can.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of